I used to be Jon Lord, and this is a sound check. 1, 2, 3, testing. You happy? Good. Uh-huh.
You know what it is, but can you think what time it was recorded?
Sounds quite early. I remember doing that, yeah. I can't tell you which year it is, but it's... we didn't do Child in Time too often when we reformed in the 80s. By this time, it was... I mean, in those times, in the 70s, it was a very difficult song to sing, especially the high screaming notes, which I still don't know how Ian Gillan got up to those stratospheric notes. But by the time we reformed in the 80s, I think Ian found it quite difficult to reach those top notes, and he felt that without those high screams, that the piece didn't have the strength that it used to have. So we tried it in different ways. We tried with me helping out with the synthesizer, but in the end, we dropped the number. But it was a very important number to the life of Deep Purple. It was, especially in the former East countries, you know, like...
That's in Tokyo 72.
That's,
Tokyo
yeah, okay.
72, yeah.
But I mean, in the former East of Europe, I mean, it was yeah, sure. I mean, it was very popular in Japan, yeah. But in places like Romania, Bulgaria, and the Soviet Union, when it was that, Hungary, Poland, Czechoslovakia, and so on, this piece had because it's really about the Cold War, and that was a very Cold War, if you remember, in those years. It was and so the piece took on something very, very special and very strong. Who's that?
It's from the first Most Like Palmer.
Yeah, I thought it might be Keith.
Yeah. You ever wish to play in a band with less musicians than 5? Just at Most Palmer? Without a singer or without a guitar player, just keyboards and... No?
No, I've never been... I mean, I like to play occasionally with just organ, bass and drums. That's quite good fun, but not so much in the rock vein. I prefer to play blues in that style. This is what Keith does is it's brilliant. I mean, it's very technical. It's very his what do you say? His technique is very, very good, and he has a great mind. But it's not what I wouldn't want to play like that. I'm quite happy with. I like to improvise on the organ. I like to play with a guitarist. I like the feeling of supporting a guitarist. One of the things that I learned by playing with Richie in the early days is how to play what you might call rhythm organ. You know, how to support a guitarist. And that's a very valuable thing to learn. And, but no, I wouldn't want to be in an organ trio. It's not.
But it seems in the end of the 60s there were a lot of bands, or a lot of classical trained musicians going to the rock business. Nice music like in Palmer, Moody Blues. Was it the right time to combine classical music, or was it just for the money because rock music was a more profitable thing?
Well, I don't think it was for the money. Because if it had been for the money, then it didn't succeed. Because you know, I mean, it was always more challenging, I think, to play this kind of thing, more challenging than just to play straight rock. No, I just think a generation of young musicians was coming up, growing up in the 50s and the early 60s, and coming out of music schools and out of piano lessons, and you know, and arriving and finding out that because rock music, because the boundaries were wide open. I mean, you
I think the business changed too with labels like Harvest or Island or
absolutely. Yeah.
Chrysalis.
These were the days when the record companies were part of the process. They were entrepreneurial. They actually were important to the process. They would find a young band that they liked, and they would support them financially, so that the band could grow. Those days are over. They may come back, but at the moment it's a hard world out there now.
The Purple wasn't that successful for the first 2 or 3 records.
We had one success in America.
In Iraq.
We had a successful single in America, Hush, which we had at the end of 1968. But then we disappeared, really, as far as being successful was concerned, for a couple of years. It's Beethoven, isn't it?
Right. It's Nigel Kennedy. So he was the first, let's say, rock and roll star of classical music.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
has it changed in the classical area that more musicians are kind of stars? Martin Stansett, for example, the young piano player. And Nigel Kennedy, who is more like a popular person, kind of
Well,
like you were before.
sure, but just listen to that. That has such rhythm. I mean, it makes you want to dance. It's beautiful. I mean, and it had that wonderful thing that Beethoven had. That great combination of very heavy, hard thinking, but then a smile. Always a smile. I mean, Beethoven made great jokes. But a lot of people think he was utterly serious. But if you listen to his music, you hear great jokes. He had a great sense of humor, I think. And Nigel, of course, is a very, very talented man. Very strange man, but he's he's not an easy man to get on with. But he has very strong views. Great player, great player. Ah. Is this Kurt Weill?
Right.
Yeah.
Kurt Weill was one of the first political musicians.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think that music still have a political?
It can do. Yes, I mean, it doesn't have to, and it doesn't hurt it if it doesn't have a political edge, and it doesn't hurt it if it does have a political edge. It can be. I mean, art, in a wider sense, painting or writing, poetry, music, can have a political edge to it, and indeed should occasionally, but it doesn't have to.
Probably yours was a cultural political sense combining.
Yes, I mean, not so much politics in the narrow sense, but in the wider sense.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was kind of a political move to hook up with an orchestra in 1969 and see what happened, to move the boundaries a little bit. But I'm not a political person. I'm not a political animal.
Yeah.
You know, I would. I don't trust them. No. Yeah, that's. Is that Purple Haze or is it? Yeah. But played. Is that Nigel playing that? Because he does that. But
yeah, really. It's a Kronos quartet.
Yeah, it's Kronos, is it?
Quartet from San Francisco.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they are incredible.
Yeah, they had something.
Yeah.
Easy listening stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very difficult line to balance on between as is the line that I walk when I do my crossover music. It's a difficult line. You mustn't fall off either side. Like I was trying to say before, it still has to be entertaining. It still has to speak to people as an emotion, not just as an intellect, as an intellectual exercise. That's where Kronos are brilliant, because they play with huge intellect and amazing technique, but they still play from deep from the heart, you know, because they believe in what they're doing. Sometimes people make judgments about, especially some classical musicians will think, well, I think I ought to be playing jazz, or I ought to be playing rock. Not because they want to, because they think they ought to. And that's when they fall off this narrow line, I think. But not with Kronos. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Fine. Mr. Lord, thank you very much for this
Pleasure,
sound check.
huge pleasure. It was a very nice sound check. Thank you.